Today, the topic of discussion is biostatistics. So, biostatistics is something which is lengthy and complicated to understand, but let us make it simpler and try to understand it in an easy way. So, what are the various contents or what are the various things which we are going to learn under this particular biostatistics topic? So, first we need to know why exactly we need biostatistics. Then we will see the common statistical terms that are used, the various applications and uses of biostatistics, the various methods of collecting the data, sampling, methods of presentation of the data, so that is by tabulation, diagrammatic representation and graphical representation. After you collect the data, the next important thing which we have to do is the methods of summarizing the data. Under methods of summarizing the data, we see the measures of central tendency, that is the mean, median and mode. Then we look into the measures of dispersion, that is range, mean deviation and standard deviation. Then we will even have to know about the normal distribution and normal curve, the methods of analyzing data and basic concepts of the statistical inference, that is the test of significance, t-test, z-test, z-probability test, chi-square test, correlation and regression. So all these are being dealt under this biostatistics topic. So first thing, why exactly we need to know about biostatistics? So what is the necessity for us to know about biostatistics? So it is required when you want to compare the oral health status of one population with that of the other. So you have a group A population and you have a group B population, and you have to know which group has a better oral health status, and you need to compare this oral health status. For that you need biostatistics. You even can utilize it to know the significant difference between DMFT score among two groups. So whether there is any difference in the DMFT value between these two populations, that also can be obtained from biostatistics. To study the association relationship between two variables such as sugar and dental caries. Does sugar has any effect in the causation of dental caries? So to study their association relationship, it is important, and also for things such as the fluorides in preventing dental caries. So even to study the association relationship between these fluorides and dental caries also, we need this biostatistics. So for everything in the science field, to the cause and to comparison and to know the importance of the variable, this biostatistics is important. So that is why we need to know about it. Now let us see the various common terms which we may come across during this entire topic. So we must be well versed with these terms. The first one is statistic or datum. So what is statistic? It is the means one measured or counted fact or piece of information which is stated as a figure. So anything which is measured or a counted fact or piece of information is known as statistics, such as the height of a person. So height of a person is something which you can be measured, and the births of the babies which can be counted. So all these come under the statistic or datum. The next thing is statistics. Statistics is the science of collecting the data, then presenting the data, summarizing it, analyzing and interpreting. So statistics is nothing but it is a science which deals with collecting information, then you present, summarize, analyze, and based on that you interpret the information. Biostatistics. Biostatistics is nothing but it is the application of that statistic to health problems. So whenever you utilize this collecting data, presenting, summarizing, analyzing and interpreting data procedure in health, then it is biostatistics. What is variable? Variable is any character which varies from person to person or item to item. So that is why it is called a variable. Variable is something which varies from person to person. It can be anything, any character or any variable or any item, then it is called variable. Now it can be the weight of a person, height of a person, gender of a person, etc. Coming to the observation. So what is observation? Observation is nothing but it is an event and its measurement. So what is it? Now suppose, for example, Carrie's experience. Okay, Carrie's experience is considered to be an event, whereas a value of a score of 9 for DMFT is considered to be a measurement. So this Carrie's experience with 9 DMFT is an observation. Now, what is quantitative data? So we were discussing about the collection of information, that is the data. So whenever those which can be quantified, that in character, can be taken into consideration, that is that can be quantified, that can be counted, then that is known as quantitative data. So this quantitative data is the data that can be counted. For example, plaque score or incisor weight, anything which can be counted. Now next thing which we have is the qualitative data. So what is qualitative data? Opposite of quantitative data, that which cannot be quantified. So these are those which cannot be quantified, that is the character which we take into consideration cannot be quantified, that is it cannot be counted in numerical. So what are those data which cannot be quantified? It is nothing but beauty, psychological health status, oral hygiene status. You cannot give a number for them. Okay, you will interpret it as good, poor, better, mild, moderate, severe. All these are qualitative type of data. Okay, after qualitative data, the next thing which we have is the observational unit. So what exactly is this observational unit? Observational unit is nothing but it is the source that gives observation such as object, person, etc. Now the next thing is the data. So what is data? Everything relies on this data, collection of data, methods of representing the data, everything. So what is data? Data are the set of values of one or more variables recorded on one or more individuals, or data can also be defined as a set of values recorded on one or more observational units. So these are the various statistical terms which we need to be well versed and which we may come across in this particular discussion. Now let us see the basic principles of biostatistics. So what are the basic principles of biostatistics? First one, collection of data. How do you collect the data? There are different methods as to how you do this. After collecting them, that is it can be by examining, it can be by observing, it can be by interviewing, or by questionnaire method, you collect it. Then you present the data. The presentation of the data is nothing but in the form of tabulation, graphical representation, diagrammatic representation, whatever it is, you present the data. After presenting the data, the huge data, you need to summarize the data, that is summarization of the data. Then you analyze it with the help of various tests, and then you interpret the data. So based upon the various tests, you get a result, and that result is interpreted. So this is what is the basic principles of the biostatistics. Now let us see the uses of biostatistics. So there are uses of biostatistics based on it being a science and based on it being a figure. So uses of biostatistics as a science is to define what is normal or healthy in a population and to find out the limits of normality in variables. That is to give it a particular bar saying that this condition is normal and above or below it is considered to be abnormal, and to find the difference between means and proportions of normal at two places or in two different periods. To find correlation between two variables x and y such as height and weight. So previously we have seen if you need to find correlation also, you need to have this biostatistics. To find the action of a drug, how well it works. To compare the action of two different drugs or two successive dosages of same drug. That is, if you want to compare one drug to the other drug, then you need to have this biostatistics, and to know the same drug if given in some constitutive drugs, effectiveness of the single drug, and to find a relative potency of a new drug with the respect to that of a standard drug, and to find an association between two variables such as oral leukoplakia and palm chewing, or it can even be dental caries and sugar intake. So it even tells us the association and to test the usefulness of the sera and vaccines used in the field. So whenever you discover any vaccines based on the trials, etc., the information that have been collected is used in biostatistics and in epidemiological studies to know the causative or etiological factor. Now that we have seen the uses of biostatistics as a science, let us see the uses of biostatistics as a figure. So what are the leading causes of the dental caries? What are the important causes of the caries? Whether a particular disease is rising or falling in severity and prevalence. So whether it is improving or whether it's not improving. Which age group or which gender, social class of people or profession, or which people living in a particular geographic place are affected most with a particular disease, or whether a particular population is rising or falling, that is the population is increasing or it is decreasing, which health program is given priority, and what will be the requirements for the same. All these questions are answered by using biostatistics. Now let us see the various types of data. So first thing which we have is the quantitative data, as previously we have seen. So this is the data that can be quantified. So that is the character which we can take into consideration can be quantified. Example, height and the weight. After quantitative the data, next one which we have is the qualitative data. So qualitative data are those which cannot be quantified. That is the character which we take into consideration cannot be quantified. Example, beauty, dental fluorosis, or psychological health status, oral hygiene status, all these cannot be quantified. Then you have the primary data. These are those which are collected afresh and for the first time and thus happen to be original in character. Next one which we have is the secondary data, are those which have already been collected by someone else and which have already been passed through the statistical process. So these are the various types of data we have. Now let us look into the methods of collecting this data. So first we will see the methods of collecting data of the primary data. So the first method under this is the observation method. Here you collect the information based on observing, based on looking. You will not involve in anything. You don't ask questions, you don't give questionnaires. It is only based on observing. So that is why it is known as observation method. Its advantages are that subjective bias is eliminated, and if the observation is done accurately, it is of a great advantage to us. And this information obtained by this method relates to what is currently happening, because you will look at what is happening and then you collect the information. It is not being interfered by any subjective responses, etc. And next is, this method is independent of respondents' willingness to respond. So it does not depend on how the respondent is responding to your questions, because here you're not involving them, you're just observing things and you're collecting the data. Now coming to the disadvantages, this observation method is considered to be an expensive method because it takes huge lot of time, because you're collecting information only based on observing things, and information provided by this method is limited because you do not get much information only by observing things. After observation method, the next thing which we have is the interview method. Here it involves collecting data through oral verbal stimuli, that is by asking, and reply in terms of oral verbal responses, that is by giving answer. Now this can be of two types, that is the personal interview, or it can be the telephone interviews, that is the interviews taken through telephones. Now as we have two types, let us discuss the first one, that is the personal interview. This personal interviews can again be of different types. The first one can be direct personal interview, that is direct face to face, you take the interview from the person. It can even be indirect personal interview, where you do not do it in a direct face-to-face manner. Then you have the next one is the structured interview, that is you ask the questions based on a previously drafted questions, and the next one is unstructured interviews. Here the questions are based upon the previous questions. So now coming to the advantages of this personal interviews, here more information in a greater depth is obtained from this particular personal interview type, and here interviewer by his own skills can overcome the resistance if any of the respondents have. So if suppose the respondent is not sure about giving the answer or is not able to giving answer, it depends upon the interviewer's skill to obtain the answer from the respondent, and the personal observation can be well obtained easily under this method. So not only by collecting information from asking, you can even collect the information by personal observation, as because you are in direct contact with the person. Coming to the disadvantages of this personal interview method, it is considered to be expensive method because you need to go to each and every person to take the interview, and it is more time consuming. Let us see the next one, that is the telephone interview method. So as I told you, here the interview is done with the person but through the media of telephone. So this is what is telephone interview. Advantages are, it is faster than other methods and it is cheaper. Recall is easy, you can call for several times, and non-response is very low compared to the mailing method. Replies can be recorded without causing embarrassment to the respondents because it is on telephone, and no field staff is required, only one person is enough. Coming to the limitations or disadvantages of this telephone interview is that little time is given to respondents to answer because they need to answer it on the telephone, and the surveys are restricted only to those who have telephone facilities, because you cannot ask questions on telephone to those individuals who do not have this facility. So this is limited only to those people who are having the telephone, and the excessive geographical coverage may get restricted by cost considerations. So huge, far away areas can be restricted because of the cost consideration of the telephone, and questions have to be short and to the point. That is, you cannot ask lengthy questions because it takes lot of time. So for a telephone interview, the questions must be short and to the point. Bias of the interviewer may be more because you are not observing the interviewer, you are just listening to him. Now, what is a questionnaire method? Questionnaire method is nothing but, here a questionnaire consists of number of questions either in printed or typed form in a definite order or in a form of set forms is given. So this is what is questionnaire, and this questionnaire is given to the respondents so that they can fill and give it back to you. Based on their answer, you collect the information. Its advantages are that it is of low cost even when the universe is large and is widely spread geographically, and it is free from bias of the interviewer. Answers are in respondent's own words, because here the interviewer is not present in front of you. The respondent is free to give the answer because he is not under the observance of the interviewer, and respondents have adequate time to give well through thought out answers, because they can comfortably and relaxedly sit and give the answers for the questions, and large samples can be made use of, and results can be made more dependable and reliable, because this is only questionnaires. You can take a huge number of people under this category. And what are the limitations of this particular questionnaire method is that low rate of return of the duly filled in questions, because here they are giving the answers in the questionnaires. You never know whether they are giving the questionnaire in a filled form or an unfilled form, and bias due to no response is often indeterminate, and it can be used only when the respondents are educated and cooperating. Only then they can be able to understand what is written in the questionnaire and give the answers, and it is the slowest of all because it takes time. Coming to the next one, that is the oral health examination. Here you collect the information by examining the individual. So this is most commonly used when you require some information which is related to their health. So this is an expensive type of method. Whereas coming to the disadvantages, you need to consider the option of the treatment for few people who suffer from certain diseases. So these are about the various methods of collecting primary data. Now let us see the collection of the secondary data methods. The first one is published data. So these are the information which is collected from various publications of the central, state and local governments. It can be from books, magazines, newspapers, various publications of government and international units. Or unpublished data is the data that have been collected from unpublished data, the unpublished sources, that is diaries, letters, unpublished biographies and autobiographies. Now, what is the outline of this particular topic that we have seen? That is, what exactly is biostatistics? Why do we need the various uses of biostatistics, different types of data, qualitative, quantitative, primary and secondary, and methods of collecting data. So the continuation would be in the next part. Thank you.